In 2005, a group of MIT students discovered something extraordinary, a flaw in the Massachusetts state lottery. Not a bug in a computer system, not a hack, not anything illegal. Just a mathematical loophole so obvious, so absurdly simple that they could not believe no one else had noticed it. The flaw was this: on certain days, under certain conditions, the Massachusetts lottery became what mathematicians call positive expected value, meaning that if you bought enough tickets, you were statistically guaranteed to make a profit. The lottery, designed to take money from players, would instead give money to anyone who understood the math. The MIT students understood the math, and over the course of several years, they turned that understanding into millions of dollars in winnings, legally, systematically, by simply buying lottery tickets in massive quantities on the days when the math said they would win. This is the story of how a group of college students beat the lottery, and how a retired couple in Michigan figured out the exact same scheme independently, and how the state of Massachusetts eventually had to shut down the game because the people exploiting it were smarter than the people who designed it. The game was called Cash WinFall. It launched in Massachusetts in 2004 as a replacement for another lottery game that had been discontinued. The format was standard. Players picked 6 numbers from a pool of 46. If all 6 numbers matched the drawing, the player won the jackpot. Smaller prizes were awarded for matching fewer numbers. The jackpot started at $500,000 and grew with each drawing as more people played. If no one won the jackpot, the money rolled over to the next drawing. Standard lottery mechanics, nothing unusual, except for one rule, the roll-down rule. If the jackpot reached $2 million and no one won, the jackpot did not roll over again. Instead, the money rolled down. It was distributed among the smaller prize tiers. The people who matched 5 numbers, 4 numbers, 3 numbers. Suddenly, instead of winning a few dollars or a few $100s, those smaller prizes became worth thousands. The State Lottery Commission thought this was a good idea. It meant that even if no one hit the jackpot, lots of players would still win significant amounts. It kept people playing. It generated excitement. It was, from a marketing perspective, clever. From a mathematical perspective, clever. From a mathematical perspective, it was a disaster. James Harvey was an MIT student studying mathematics. In 2005, he read about cash windfall in the newspaper. He read the rules. He read about the roll-down mechanism, and he immediately recognized what the State Lottery Commission had apparently not. On roll-down days, the expected value of a lottery ticket changed dramatically. In a normal lottery, the expected value of a lottery ticket changed dramatically. In a normal lottery, the expected value of a ticket is always negative. You pay $1 for a ticket. The average payout across all possible outcomes is something like 50 cents. You lose money. That is how lotteries work. The house always wins, except on roll-down days in cash windfall. Harvey did the math. He calculated the probability of matching different numbers of balls. He calculated the prize amounts on roll-down days when the jackpot money was distributed to smaller tiers. He calculated the expected value of a ticket, and he found that on roll-down days, if you bought enough tickets, your expected return was not 50 cents on the dollar. It was closer to $1.15 or $1.20, sometimes higher. The lottery was paying out more than it was taking in, on purpose, because of the roll-down rule. Harvey shared this discovery with a group of friends, other MIT students, people who understood probability theory and expected value and statistical analysis. They verified the math. The math was correct, and they decided to exploit it. The scheme was simple. Wait for the jackpot to approach $2 million. When a roll-down was announced, buy as many tickets as possible. Tens of thousands of tickets, hundreds of thousands of tickets, hundreds of thousands if they could manage it. The logistics were more complicated. Lottery tickets in Massachusetts had to be purchased in person from authorized retailers. There was no online system, so the students had to physically go to stores and buy tickets, lots of tickets, which required time, transportation, and cooperation from store owners. They formed a betting group, a syndicate. They pooled money. They recruited more members to help with the buying. On roll-down days, teams of students would drive to different stores across Massachusetts with duffel bags full of cash and spend hours at lottery terminals printing tickets. The scale of the operation grew quickly. In the first year, the group bet a few $1,000s per roll-down. Within 2 years, they were betting hundreds of thousands. By 2010, they were spending more than $600,000 per roll-down, buying more than 300,000 tickets at a time, and they were winning consistently, predictably, exactly as the math said they would. Over the course of several years, the MIT group won an estimated $8 million in profits. Not gross winnings. Profit. After accounting for the cost of all the tickets they bought, they were not cheating, they were not manipulating the drawings, they were not hacking any systems, they were simply playing the game according to its published rules and doing so with sufficient scale and mathematical precision to guarantee a profit. But they were not the only ones who had figured this out. Jerry Selby was not an MIT student. He was a retired convenience store owner from a small town in Michigan. He had a degree in mathematics from Western Michigan University, but he had spent most of his career running a store, not doing advanced probability theory. In 2003, Michigan launched a lottery game called WinFall. Same basic structure as Massachusetts Cash WinFall, same roll-down rule. Jerry read about it in a brochure at his store, and within minutes of reading the rules, Jerry saw the flaw: the positive expected value on roll-down days, the guaranteed profit if you bought enough tickets. Jerry told his wife, Marge. They decided to test the theory. On the next roll-down day, they decided to test the theory. On the next roll-down day, they drove to a nearby town, went to a convenience store, and bought $3,600 worth of tickets. They won $6,300, a profit of $2,700 on their first attempt. They had just proven that the math worked. Over the next several years, Jerry and Marge scaled up their operation. They formed a corporation. They recruited family and friends to invest. They bought tickets in massive quantities. They made dozens of trips, eventually shifting their operation to Massachusetts after Michigan discontinued WinFall in 2005 because they discovered that Cash WinFall had the same flaw. By 2011, Jerry and Marge's betting group was one of the largest players in Cash WinFall. They were winning hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. And like the MIT students, they were doing it entirely legally. For several years, multiple large betting groups operated in Cash WinFall simultaneously: the MIT group, the Selby group, at least two other syndicates from the Boston area. They all understood the math. They all bought massive quantities of tickets on roll-down days. And they all made money because the lottery was paying out more than it was taking in. But the presence of multiple large betting groups created a problem. On roll-down days, the groups were competing for a finite pool of prize money. The more tickets one group bought, the smaller the share available to others. The expected value calculations that had initially shown a guaranteed profit began to shift as the scale of betting increased. The groups were not coordinating. They were not colluding. They did not know each other, at least not initially. But they were all buying tickets at the same stores on the same days in quantities that store owners found unusual. In some cases, stores would run out of paper for the lottery terminals because so much volume was being processed. Players from different syndicates would arrive at the same store and have to wait hours for the printer to finish processing the previous group's order. By 2010, the large betting groups were collectively buying so many tickets on roll-down days that they represented a significant percentage of total ticket sales. The State Lottery Commission began to notice. In 2011, the Boston Globe published an investigation into Cash WinFall. The article detailed how a small number of large betting groups were winning a disproportionate share of the prizes. It identified the MIT group by name. It explained the roll-down flaw and how it created positive expected value. The article prompted an investigation by the Massachusetts State Inspector General. The Inspector General's report, released in 2012, confirmed what the Globe had reported. The roll-down rule created a mathematical flaw that allowed sophisticated players to win consistently. The report noted that the large betting groups had not broken any laws. They had not cheated. They had simply exploited a poorly designed game. But the report also noted that the game had become unfair to casual players. On roll-down days, the large groups bought so many tickets that smaller players had virtually no chance of winning significant prizes. The report made several findings. The State Lottery Commission had known about the large betting groups for years, but had not acted. Store owners had been complicit, allowing groups to buy massive quantities of tickets because the commissions they earned on ticket sales were lucrative, and the lottery had continued to promote Cash WinFall as a fair game, even after it was clear that a small number of players had a systematic advantage. The political and public pressure was significant. The lottery was supposed to be a form of entertainment, not a vehicle for mathematically sophisticated groups to extract guaranteed profits from the state. In 2012, the Massachusetts State Lottery announced that Cash WinFall would be discontinued. The Cash WinFall would be discontinued. The Cash WinFall story is, at its core, a story about expected value, a concept that is fundamental to probability theory and decision-making under uncertainty. Expected value is the average outcome you would expect from a random event if you repeated it many times. For a lottery ticket in a normal game, the expected value is always negative because the lottery keeps a large percentage of ticket sales as revenue and profit. The roll-down rule in Cash Windfall changed the equation. By redistributing jackpot money to smaller prize tiers, the state inadvertently created situations where the expected value became positive. The math is straightforward. On a roll-down day, the prize for matching 5 out of 6 numbers might increase from $4,000 to $50,000 or more. The probability of matching 5 numbers does not change, but the payout increases dramatically. When you multiply probability by payout and sum across all prize tiers, the expected value of a ticket crosses above the cost of the ticket. This is the mathematical flaw, and it is not subtle. Anyone with a basic understanding of probability could calculate it. The MIT students did. Jerry Selby did. Others did. The State Lottery Commission apparently did not, or if they did not understand the implications. The MIT students who ran the betting group did not face legal consequences. They had not broken any laws. They graduated, moved on to careers in finance, technology, and academia. Some of them reportedly used the lottery winnings to pay for tuition or fund startups. Jerry and Marge Selby also faced no legal consequences. They had operated transparently, forming a legal corporation and paying taxes on their winnings. After Cash Windfall ended, they retired from lottery play. Jerry later said in interviews that he saw the whole thing as a math problem that happened to involve money. The State Lottery Commission faced criticism but no formal penalties. The Inspector General's report noted failures of oversight but did not recommend criminal charges against anyone. The stores that had allowed the large betting groups to buy massive quantities of tickets kept the commissions they had earned. Some store owners reportedly made tens of thousands of dollars in commissions during the years Cash Windfall was active. The casual players who had played Cash Windfall without understanding the math did not get refunds. They had played a game that was, on most days, a normal lottery with normal negative expected value. They lost money the same way lottery players always lose money. The legacy. The Cash Windfall story has become a case study in game theory, probability, and the unintended consequences of complex rules. It is taught in mathematics and economics courses as an example of how even well-intentioned designs can contain exploitable flaws. The story also raises questions about fairness. The large betting groups did not cheat, but they had an advantage that casual players did not: the knowledge and resources to exploit the flaw at scale. Is that fair? Or does it represent a failure of the system to protect less sophisticated participants? Different people answer that question differently. Some argue that the MIT students and Jerry Selby were simply smarter and more disciplined than other players, and that intelligence and discipline should be rewarded. Others argue that lotteries exist to provide entertainment and fund public programs, not to enrich mathematically sophisticated syndicates. What is clear is that the Cash Windfall story changed how state lotteries think about game design. After the scandal, other states reviewed their games for similar flaws. Rules were rewritten. Oversight was strengthened. The era of obvious, exploitable lottery math largely ended, but the fundamental tension remains. Lotteries are probabilistic games, and probabilistic games can always, in theory, be analyzed and optimized by people who understand the math. The question is whether the designers of those games are as smart as the people trying to beat them. In the case of Cash Windfall, they were not. This is Pseudofiles.